All right, New York Liberty fans, the team has definitely made some moves since our last live. Brian and I are here to talk about what this means and why is it that JK is trying to go for another ring. We're going to talk about that today on Gotta Get Up. Gotta get up. Gotta get up. Gotta get up. Hey, women's basketball fans, welcome to Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans brought to you by Black Rosie Media and hosted by Erica L. Ayala. All right, New York Liberty fans, we got some big news for y'all since the last time Brian and I hopped on the microphone. We've had you covered at the Women's Basketball Roundup, but we wanted to make sure that we talked through some of these moves. But first, let's do that vibe check. Brian, how you living?
Well, it's a great time of year. The sun is starting to peak out a little bit more. And whenever the sun is out in the spring, I gradually reduce layers. So hat comes off, let my head suck up some sun, unzip the jacket a little bit, get that in. We're drawing closer to warm weather. We're almost there, people.
Almost there, yes. Spring has sprung officially according to the calendar. And the New York Liberty have entered the offseason / free agency chat. Now, Brian, you and I talked, of course, briefly on the last episode about Izzy Harrison coming to the New York Liberty, but we still felt there was something out there. We talked about how perhaps there was teams that weren't really liking the offers that were on the table, maybe for the 7 pick. We talked through that. We talked specifically about some things that we had heard regarding Connecticut. So we're going to circle back to all of that. The one question that we cannot answer, at least not yet, is about Breanna Stewart. But you know I was going to come back to this, Brian. 1-19. Y'all want to throw Sabrina's legacy into the trash. That child was hurt. I told you, she got to take them shots. Then we get Stewie, maybe not performing offensively, the way we thought she should, whether that was in the finals or at Unrivaled. And I tried to tell y'all, sis is hurt. She might not be hurt, but something ain't right. And wouldn't you know, Brian, what was announced on the immediate after the Mist were officially eliminated? That Stewie had a procedure.
Like, I looked up one day and then I saw Ben Pickman share a picture of Breanna Stewart in a hospital bed. I'm like, wait a minute, what just happened here?
I mean, I tried to tell y'all she wasn't right. And we talked about it on the last episode, right, Brian? She was playing and it looked like she was doing everything that she could. If she was at 80%, she was giving 80% of that on the defensive side in particular. Now that is hard to do because defense is a lot of anticipation and ultimately a lot of hustle. But that's why I appreciate what Stewie does, because she gave what she needed to give and what she could give to the team. Same thing with Sabrina. So of course, Stewie, we are wishing you a speedy recovery. Doesn't seem like anything, as you mentioned, Ben Pickman posted, doesn't seem like anything that will have her sidelined to start the season. We're expecting to have her ready for training camps. Not Amir saying folks still gonna wear them puffer jackets to the Barclays until June, though. But I'm telling you, that is, first of all, like Brian said, is starting to get warmer. And then you catch the wrong chill down the wrong corner with no sun, and you're gonna be like, yo, it's mad brick. So you got to have your puffer jacket fully open with the sharp, the crisp t-shirt underneath, with your light but long pants, and your Timbs with your lighter but still functional socks. You feel me? Like, that's what you do. And then if you really about it, you put that Scully cap in your backpack just in case. Again, you walk down them streets with too many shaded trees at the wrong time in April, and then you find yourself in a cold front.
When you tell you, like yesterday, I was like, oh, look, it's the, like, what? Once I felt a nip of wind, I was like, okay, hat comes back on.
That's it. It comes right back. You got to be ready. You got to be ready for everything. So that's how you know. That's how you know who the New Yorkers among you are. Because it's like, nah, I might sweat a little bit, but what I'm not going to do is get got by the colds. I might sweat, but I ain't getting got by the cold. Or they turn on the AC in like a building or a train car too early, and then you like, you like freezing in there. I ain't doing that. I ain't
Yeah.
doing that. Damien, what's up? What's up? After me, you switch to the Air Force Ones. Listen, is this like a rule? Is a hard and fast rule in New York? I don't know about that. Also, I don't really mess with Air Force Ones because like I knock my shoes are functional. We knock around. So I needed something, I wasn't gonna be brushing them things every day.
Yeah.
I mess with the Tims. So
I have a general rule about not doing white uptowns. Not because they're like bad, but because me, like whenever I'm walking, I'm like, I scuff into things.
Scuff.
And then it scuffs once and I'm like, I don't want to wear this anymore.
That's what I'm saying. It's a lot of upkeep. So listen, it's not like, I don't know, where I came from in the Bronx, where when we was growing up, the Bronx shading into Mount Vernon and New Row. We ain't do it. Like, listen, you wear what you got, and we gonna make it work. But don't get got by the cold. That's what we don't do. Damien, what's good? What's good? Okay, Damien, we're gonna talk about a guard. Can't talk about picks because, well, the Liberty ain't got none, and that leads
our job easy.
Exactly. I was like, see, y'all want me to commit to something. I tried to tell y'all about Sab's injury, tried to tell y'all about Stewie's injury, tried to tell y'all don't be stressing me out about picks. And now we ain't got one. We ain't got one this year. We ain't got one next year. And that is because, Brian, as you put out in the last WBB report, a trade. Mm-hmm. A trade, the New York Liberty pick up Natasha Cloud. I feel like we've been talking about this as a possibility for at least 2 basketball seasons, Brian.
Yes.
Because remember when the Liberty had to go through the Mystics to get to the 23 championship, and Tosh Cloud, she was giving like Reggie Miller versus Spike Lee vibes. Like she was the villain in that series. Now Washington lost. Sorry, Misha. Y'all did lose. Not to make it all about the Mystics, but y'all did lose. But Tosh Cloud got so much love at that elimination game. Like the crowd stayed. I guess she was doing an interview. They stayed for her. They stood up for her. And she talked about that, right, Brian? In her little message while she was down in Unrivaled, she talked about the love that she receives from New York.
Yeah, like you could tell, because I remember, I think we were both in the room that night for her post game, and you could sort of feel the emotion that came from her. And I feel like a lot happened all at once for her in that series, because in game 1, she had, for her standards, a subpar game, and she was like, that's not going to happen again. And she probably played the best individual game of her life in that game too, and she was so good. And we talk about it a lot. The great thing about playoff basketball is that the intensity ratchets up, but the appreciation for opponents ratchets up too. So it's like, oh, wow, she really bringing it. And New York basketball crowds are tough, but it's like she a Philly kid and she knows tough crowds, and she was really able to win that crowd over just through sheer force of will. Stuff like that stays with you. And I feel for her, especially in that post game, it's like, wow, I really did that. And even though I fell short and I'm going into an unsure future, I know that I can walk out this building with my head held high, being like, okay, I did the absolute best I could do, and stuff like that stays with you. And I feel like for Tosh in particular, it builds a relationship of like respect and that hustle, because everyone, no matter where you go, everyone loves a player who would get their, like put their hard hat on and get to work. Everyone loves a player like that. And especially for a guard defense is so complicated and tricky as far as timing, positioning, doing all these kind of things. So being able to really be excellent at that really leaves a lasting memory. And it's something that I think fans love no matter where you go.
That's it. And, I agree with a lot of what you said. She in her, online social media post said, y'all needed a dog and you got a dog. And I was like, did she be listening to the show? She be Amir, is she in the Slack? Is she? I would hope I would know. But I was like, yo, Amir, is she in the Slack? Does she know about the sandpaper? We're gonna have to get them shirts printed. Because now we got the sandpaper, baby. We got the sandpaper. And what have I been saying? You need a veteran point guard because Sabrina can run the point. We've seen that. Is that her position? We talk about all the time, Brian. That's not her natural position. And as much as, yes, she will get the keys, especially if Stewie is not completely 100%, this team is going to rely on Sabrina Ionescu. So now you have a dog that can run an offense that is ready to, I feel like Tosh Cloud and like peak Sabrina are going to have people in fits just with the attitude that's about to be in the New York backcourt. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, I also feel like the one group of people who are going to despise having Sabrina and Tosh Cloud together on the court at the same time.
Who's that?
The referees.
You're right. They were like, dang, just when we got rid of DT, now we got y'all fools to deal with.
What think about Sabrina? Like, she says she doesn't yap to the rest, but she's a yapper. Like,
for real.
Like there's one famous moment, like one of my favorite moments last season. Like, Sab spent a week without having a voice. So like in post game, her voice is like super duper low. Yep. And then as soon as it gets back, what does she do? That referee makes a bad call. Sabrina Ionescu from Walnut Creek is here to let you know that you messed up, buddy.
Listen. She will let you know for sure. Like, her yapping is a little bit different. She's not gonna hit you with the twirl, at least not when she's on the court, because apparently we have heard that she will call for a replay from the bench in particular. Sandy be like, y'all leave me alone. If y'all don't leave me alone. She was like, if Leo says it, then okay. But otherwise, y'all just leave me alone.
no player ever no player in their life ever thinks they committed a foul. Who, me? I didn't do that.
Me clutches pearls. Oh man, yeah. So that is really funny. And a lot of people, Brian, when we're talking about this trade, the New York Liberty picking up Natasha Cloud, people were wondering what this meant, of course, for Stewie, because Stewie has not officially accepted her core designation. We have no expectation that she won't still. But it was like, all right, this must be the domino that we were waiting on, right, Brian? Now we have Tosh Cloud. Whatever could the Liberty be waiting to do? But we got an answer. We got an answer for that too, Brian. The Magicienne, Marine Johannes, MJ23 is back.
Yes, in honor of Marine, I wanted to throw my headset behind my head to make it really flashy, but I'll save that in case so I don't break it by mistake. But I love the Marine return so much because I feel like one thing about Marine is that she's really fun as a player. Like,
so fun.
It's great to win, and it's even better to win and have a lot of flair and panache while you're doing it. And Marine does a lot of both. So I feel that it gives a lot of energy in the building. And, she's going to come back. Like, when she was last year, the attendance started to rise. The momentum really started to build. And now when she was gone for a year, it's like it reached a supernova peak. So when she's back, it's like, okay, I'm here with everyone here. So I can really show even more people what I've got. But on the court, I feel like there's a lot of great things that Marine does. Like, when she last left, she was talking about wanting to work on her off-ball game a little bit. That was a goal that Sandy and the staff had for her. And her being away in Paris for a year, playing in Turkey now currently, I'm really excited to see what she's been able to sort of like incorporate with her off the ball work to see how she fits in with this new dynamic. Because, she's going to have a lot of great opportunities because Tosh, great driver to the rim. JJ, tremendous passer. So her off the ball work is going to be really interesting to keep an eye on. And I'm excited to see the growth she's made since we last saw her in 2023 and what she can bring to this new Liberty context.
Indeed. I just think she's a dynamic player immediately. When you think of the New York Liberty squad, you see a team that has leveled up. And we talked about it, right, Brian, on the last episode. And I mean, really, we've been talking about it since the finals ended. Teams are going to chase the top. The New York Liberty went through and have built their roster in specific ways, including being able to really find great talent internationally, being able to work through the draft effectively and get a player like, of course, Sabrina Ionescu to try and build around, while also surrounding that player with veterans. They went and got Stewie. We saw Sloot. There was a time where Sammy Whitcomb was there. That was a little bit of that transition hybrid rebuild, right? You know, and Benijah Laney Hamilton, Kayla Thornton, who now obviously is with Golden State. So there is a lot going on here. And then we started to see other teams do that. I've told y'all before, whether it's on here or Tempestagi Talk with Roberta, who will have a new podcast coming as well. But everybody's gunning for the New York Liberty. The Aces have, you know, reimagined their roster. The Seattle Storm have reimagined their roster. Indiana Fever have reimagined their roster. Atlanta, like you could go on and on and on. So what was New York going to do? And the big change here, or changes, I think, is Cloud and obviously Izzy Harrison, who have a relationship. If y'all didn't know, I'm not saying anything that's not out there publicly. So I think that is going to be really, and Izzy, I should say, yes, she's in a relationship with Tosh Cloud. And we talked about this on the last episode, so I don't want to make it like that's the only reason that either one of them is in New York. Izzy, I think, and we didn't really get into this very much, but she fits into the length, and the versatility that New York has also built as a cornerstone of the Jonathan Kolb era, right? Of this New York Liberty squad. But of course, that still introduces some questions because, all right, who are we looking at? And we talked about most of these players, right? In our series, in our offseason series. Sabrina. Now you have Tosh Cloud. Then you have Benijah, Leo, Stewie, Jonquel, Niara. I mean, now you're working with Izzy. This is, and some of these players are coming off the bench, Brian, right? In this hypothetical. That's wild to me. But what it also spells to me is, from a salary cap perspective, what does this mean for the New York Liberty and Breanna Stewart? And are there more moves that this team is going to have to make to be at salary cap?
Because I remember in last episode, we were talking about the sequencing of it all, where it's like, okay, here's one big domino, here's another one, and then Stewie's going to be the last thing they do before they break camp, on which I believe April 27th is when training camp starts. So they've got about a month to sort of like shake things out. I imagine from here, they might just keep everything low just to make sure that, okay, you get Stewie a number that's comfortable for her while still leaving yourself enough room to do any maneuvering in the event you need to during the season. So I feel once they have a beat on that, that'll really sort of like shape up what the roster is going to look like when camp ends and we get closer to opening night. So I'm really curious to see what they do. Not having the pick, I think, is helpful in that regard, because that's a roster spot that you may have like essentially burned for a player who may not really make the team, and you're getting a vet who you know is going to be a big part of what you're doing. So that makes things a lot easier in that regard. So I guess now it's just a matter of, okay, what number do you want to give Stewie that's cool for her, and then you just sort of like slide from there.
Yeah. And so this is for those watching on YouTube. If you are listening, then you can check out her hoop stats. But if you look here, we start with Sabrina Ionescu, over 200K. Tosh coming in at 200. Jonquel Jones, and Tosh is 200 veteran protected. Jonquel Jones 195 veteran protected. Benijah Laney Hamilton 185 for veteran protected. But Cloud, Sab, Cloud, Jones, and Laney Hamilton, all UFAs next year. We've talked about Kennedy Burke. I didn't realize Izzy was coming in at this deal. In my opinion, Izzy Harrison. Then you have Q, you have Leo, who we just talked about. You have Carrera, Redard. We've got Caitlin Davis, Rebecca Gardner, who I think will be a part of those reserve players. As Mary comes in again for training camp. I guess Izzy is a training camp as well. I didn't mention that. Jalen Sherrod training camp. You've got Ivana, MJ, and then Han suspended and contract expired. I feel like I've talked about my thoughts on that. Maybe holding on though, just to have that as something if they need to move. I think when they move Han Ju, they at least can get something in return. But I want us to answer this question here. What do you think will happen to the Liberty bench in 2025? And Brian, we've asked this question because we felt that, especially with no Kayla Thornton, we were wondering what role Kennedy Burke could play. Of course, we know there's a scenario where Leo can be alongside Niara, kind of your 1-2 punch off the bench. We also know Leo could be a starter, and that starting lineup looked really great, but that was when the writing seemed to be on the wall with Courtney Vandersloot. So from your vantage point, Brian, what do you see, let's assume in this scenario, right, that Stewie is coming back?
Yeah.
So assuming Stewie's coming back, let's answer Damien's question here. What do you think will happen with that Liberty bench coming up in the upcoming season?
We've got ourselves a fun question here where we know 3 starters are locked in for sure. And then I assume Cloud starts at the point guard, and then I would start Benaisha just because B's been here the longest. B gives you like a nice she gives you a different punch in the starting lineup. So that slots Leo to super sub who can play big minutes, who can guard most positions. So my bench rotation will be Leo, Niara. That's our 2 right there. Burke is gonna get big run because she's familiar with the system. Can handle a lot of different things. So KB's my 3rd. Mm-hmm. My 4th Marine. You have that backup guard who can be in that combo role. So that's 2 right there. Mm-hmm. Izzy as my 2nd big, because I especially like Stewie will probably be fine by opening day, but if I could reduce her workload and be like, hey Izzy, get some boards, handle these switches, do that, I would love to see that. So that's 5 right there. Mm-hmm. Beck is going to be our 6th. And Beck, especially if you want to manage Benaisha's minutes, because she's dealing with something right now. She should be good by training camp, but we haven't heard anything yet. So we're gonna be a little bit unsure about that. So that's 6. Who's going to be our? I feel like, did I miss anybody?
Okay. Let's go back here because let's say you have Sab, JJ, Stewie as your 3 for sure locked in.
Yep.
Okay. And then you said Tosh and Benaisha.
Yeah, I'd start B. Yeah.
Okay. And then you said Leo.
Niara.
Leo, Niara. Where is Niara on here?
Right. Under B.
Oh, haha. Thank you. Niara. I was like, wait a minute, don't play games with me today. Marine Johannes. KB. All right, right there. Izzy.
Yeah, I said Izzy. So that's.
Oh, you said. I'm sorry. You said Kennedy Burke, then MJ, then Izzy, and then Rebecca Gardner.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
And then I guess Davis would be the last player on the list, but Davis, I imagine Sandy, she should find more opportunities for her, especially with the longer season. And I believe Johannes, Leo, and Niara have Eurobasket duties in June, so they may be gone for a while. So there's going to be an opportunity for her to really sort of like make hay in the rotation. So she would be the 12th. But and I would stress for people who are like, why is she the last player on the bench? It's because there's a lot of really great talent ahead of her, and there's more opportunity for her to sort of like soak up game from her teammates here. And then when she does play, she can sort of build off the work she's been doing in China. So don't think I would just sort of like caution now. Don't read her being the last option off the bench as a sort of like indictment of her capabilities. It's just hey, we've got a lot of awesome talent, and then we can fit her in where we need to.
Yeah, I hear that. Amir saying, what bench? The Libs have 2 starting 5s and 2 developmental players. That's hilarious. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit more, and this is gonna be a little bit of a shorter episode because your girl got to hop on CBS. But we still have some time to get into this, and I love chatting about this. Now, I'm not a fantasy roster builder gal. I don't do way too early to tell mock drafts, but we have some meat here that we can talk about with this team now, Brian. So I want to look at this roster again because from what you're saying, this would be a full roster, including Stewie. Now, the reason I want to mention that is because we don't have a price for Stewie yet. But if we look at what we're seeing with regard to her hoop stats and the numbers that they have, those total salaries, excluding training camp, which they'll have to figure that out when it comes to Izzy. She's listed here as a training camp roster or training camp invite. So they have about 500, I'm rounding up aggressively, but just for the sake of what we're saying, 500K as cap space. That's not what I guess they could, but we have to figure out what they're going to do. Like, how does that money get divvied out? How much of it goes to Stewie, knowing that right now, you have Tosh Cloud at that 200. Also, what are they going to put us back on here? Are they going to keep 12 players?
Yeah, this is the part where I'm like, thank God, like I would never want to like body swap with Jonathan Kolb because his job was successful. Like having to sort of like figure that out with so many good options. And we talked about it a little bit in the newsletter, but that cap number is so dang low. I need that to like I hope the players really sort of like really wreck shop in negotiations, and I hope they do for so many different purposes. Like that low number is one of them for me. Like, come on.
1.5. I believe that when we get more information regarding on the record conversations regarding the CBA and potential negotiations, I believe that what Brian is saying is something you should remember. That's all I'm going to say for right now, because but we're still working on some reporting around the CBA and even how Unrivaled has impacted the CBA negotiations from players' perspectives. So should have some of that coming to y'all. But that's going to be tough. It's doable, right? The numbers are definitely doable. They're definitely there. But that does mean that maybe a player like Jalen Sherrod, what does that mean for Ivana? Again, Hanju on a suspended contract. Again, I think that time is up. I do wonder, though. I think, Brian, if I had to guess, and we don't know, Sab coming back from an injury and then played a little bit in Unrivaled, but mostly had some off-season commitments. Of course, Stewie coming back, expected to be ready for training camp. Didn't seem like anything serious, more like a scoping, kind of cleaning up to get rid of discomfort type thing.
Yeah.
Lower body also. I tried to tell y'all. But Nigelini Hamilton, for me, even not knowing what the injury is fully, did not return to Unrivaled, but also knowing that B had to literally get a shot to work through some pain. I'm actually a little bit higher on Leo finding a way into that starting five to begin with, especially to give Nigelini Hamilton rest because I think she's going to need it. I think this New York Liberty team would benefit from it. You already mentioned in passing, Brian, it's a longer season. So I think you have that conversation if you're the New York Liberty, where at least to start the season, like let's see if Leo can cook for real. One, so I think it serves a few different purposes. You give Nigelini Hamilton some rest.
Yeah.
You have, assuming that our roster and the roster is what it's going to look like, you have a few options there that can pick up and put on their back what Benai Hamilton has meant for this team. And it's not a replacement. It's a let's get you rested as much as possible, because they couldn't give her rest in the last handful of seasons. They couldn't afford to.
Yeah.
But I think they can afford to now.
Yeah. You know, I wonder if you're thinking on the same vein that I am. I wonder if someone's like a pitcher who's on like a really specific pitch count just to sort of like nurse them through, especially the early parts of the season. I wonder if that's going to be the best way to sort of like manage Benaisha going forward. Whereas like, okay, we know that you can go all out, but we're not gonna like really press you for like 34 minutes. We're gonna keep you to 24. Like go all out in that bit, and then from there, when it's postseason time, we were able to sort of like nurse you through the season in one piece, and then here go all out. You have no more limitations of what you can do, and then we go from there.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I think that's probably what we're gonna see happen, is just play a little bit with that, especially early on, because this is like an abundance of talent. Now, this becomes the thing. Sandy, I think she likes, I was going to use the term comfort, but I honestly think the word flow is more what she appreciates, right? She's not afraid to be uncomfortable. She's not afraid to shake things up. We saw that. We talked about, overtime and game 5. But I think flow and fit is important to her, and she likes building up where players can feel as confident as possible with what their assigned role is in any given roster. So yeah. I think there is also going to be a little bit of that from the coaching staff that has to get sorted out. But I think this is interesting. Listen, y'all know I want Miss Amon back in the W so bad. Talk to her during the Paris Olympics about that. Now, here's the thing. She's been very clear that until things change for international players, like she's not really trying to hop in, hop out. It doesn't seem like she wants to know how she's going to make her money. And I respect that. I would love to see Miss Amon back. I mean, and if anyone is going to do that, I do feel like the New York Liberty could be a great destination. That would be an embarrassment. Like that would be an embarrassment of riches. And the New York Liberty ain't getting no more deals for the rest of life if they can bring Miss Amon over. But Damien asks, what about Ivana and Q? I think Sherrod. I mean, this New York Liberty squad, it's going to be tough to come in to this squad just with the players that we talked about. And that's assuming that is the reserve pool. I think it has a good likelihood of being that. But, I mean, Sherrod coming in on a training camp. Ivana, I think, is interesting. And we actually didn't get around to our deep dive there. But I want to ask you, Brian, now that we have a minute, I mean, do you see a future with Ivana on this team, knowing that she wasn't utilized as much, but also kind of seeing what the vision is for this New York Liberty squad and where the cap is, at least as of now?
Yeah, it's going to be really tricky to sort of find a spot for Evie here, because I feel like when she did play, like she struggled a little bit early because, new city, new flow, all that kind of thing. So it took some time, but she did give good minutes when she got in. Like the game she had against the Sun prior to the break was one of her real standouts. And then the Saturday game in Chicago, she flipped the game with her defense and timely 3-point shooting in that second quarter. So there's room for her in the league. It just feels like with the Liberty, their guard room is so excellent, and even a player like Leo can slide into the 2-guard role. Like quiet as it's kept, she can do that really well. So it's a situation where the numbers game and the roster spot, Kathy Younger, I need to talk to you again. That's where she sort of like falls into a really tricky trap, if you will. Right. So I would say it's not impossible, but it is going to be a little bit tough.
It seems like it's going to be tough. And a reminder that, and I believe I'm saying this correctly, Brian, but the CBA negotiations will not affect the 25 season. So the 25 season will be under the existing collective bargaining agreement. existing collective bargaining agreement, if I'm not mistaken, expires officially after this season. So when people talk about a potential lockout, we will have a WNBA season in 2025.
Yep.
The question is, and again, I have some reporting on this. What I will say is literally no party that I have talked to wants there to be a lockout. We do know that some parties within the WNBA ecosystem are preparing for a lockout, but that would not impact the season in 2025. So the New York Liberty still have a chance to go back to back is basically what I'm saying there.
Yeah.
No, I mean, jokes aside, but also kind of true.
Yeah. The funniest outcome would be the Liberty storm through the league, win the championship, and then there's still basketball for a while. I was like, oh, hey, what's the last memory you have? Us getting drunk and celebrating that Barclays again.
I know that's right. That? Bring out Fat Joe 2.0. Let's go. I mean, y'all know, if you have been a long time listener, and we got some OGs here, which I appreciate. I'm pretty bullish in, I don't really think of it as superstition, but when it comes to analysis, I think it's fair to give people, teams, coaches time to really give us a body of work before we start making all these big, bad, bold predictions as people who watch games on TV. Like, that's just how I approach it. And I can say that the roster, as it's fitting to build out, as they say in the South, this is probably the most excited, the most clear vision that I've seen of a New York Liberty roster in a very long time, maybe ever, Brian. That I don't even think that is hyperbole.
Yeah.
This might be the clearest vision.
Yeah, like the roster is so good, and when we get closer to training camp, like because I when I wrote about the Cloud trade, I was going through like some video clips of her on defense, and I'm like, I know she's great, and then I watch clips of her guarding players that range the gauntlet from Jewel Lloyd to Rakia Jackson to Fee, and it's like you can have your point guard do that, and we've talked about it here a lot. Brianna Stewart as a weak side help defender might be the best we've ever seen, and you just have Stewie just roaming around wrecking shop everywhere else while Cloud is guarding whoever, and you have JJ holding on the paint. Like the mind, like it feels like there's like infinite possibilities as to what they can do, and even I think that's where the I don't want to say upgrade over Slooks. I feel like it feels like a little bit dismissive of Slooks to a certain degree, but it feels like Cloud gives them more buttons to push, I would say. Gives them more buttons, gives them more versatility, and there are so many. There's like all defensive lineups they can run. I can think of like at least 4 just like excellent A+ defenders on the court for this Liberty team, and that's even before we even get the final roster breakdown. Like there are so many possibilities here.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. I like this comment from Amir, and I want to add to it. JK playing 3-dimensional chess with these fools and is going to have Sandy play Jokic and Q just enough to make them viable selections for the expansion teams. Now, this is something that we talked about, and this is where, again, I don't like to get too deep into my excitement for this roster, because this mention of the expansion team is about to give me hives, because there's going to be multiple teams exactly next year, and then more to come from what we've been hearing reported. So the New York Liberty, we know, can only protect a certain amount of players. We also know each expansion team can only pick one player from the unprotected pool. But when you have multiple WNBA teams selecting in an expansion draft, Brian, that means that you are having at least as many players as there are expansion teams taken from your unprotected list.
Yeah. Jonathan Kolb, you've made this fantastic cake, and these teams are going to cut in the middle and hollow it out.
Slice that thing up. Damian saying there shouldn't be a lockout, especially when players like Angel Reese making deals with companies, but I digress.
Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian. You go first.
Yeah, I would say don't assume there's a lockout, and B, there's a lot underneath that they need to sort of like handle. And I think that part in particular, it's because I remember I was thinking about it as we were talking about the Stewie salary piece. Mm-hmm. I distinctly remember, I forget where she was from, but she asked, like, as a VP in the union, mm-hmm. Do you think you're setting a bad precedent by taking slight haircuts? And she was like, no, not really, because I know what we're doing here, and like it's fine, I got it. So I think that part, I don't want to have a situation where the league is like, oh, Angel, you have a McDonald's commercial. You can take a little bit less here. No. Yeah, be careful. Yeah, be careful with that.
That part, because, and I'm glad you went there on both things. One, very clearly, we here at Black Rosie Media, and specifically on Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, want to remind you that, you know, these, like I said, like I reported, these are conversations and preparations if they need to go there. No one is expecting that it will go there, but you have to have your options ready. And number two, Angel Reese is not the commissioner of the WNBA and certainly not of the MNBA. So any deals that Angel Reese is making are Angel Reese deals and have nothing to do with what her contract looks like for the Chicago Sky. Those are separate things. They have no bearing. They're literally different contracts. Now, if there's ever overlap, like good on Angel Reese, but Angel Reese money is Angel Reese money. Stewie money is Stewie money. And Sab money is Sab money. New York Liberty money is New York Liberty money. I mean, that's a little bit different because I'm sure there are things that the owners have to pay. But the point is that let's not conflate individual sponsorships, even team sponsorships and deals with what the WNBA, but I would say even more specifically because of how the connection to the WNBA and the NBA is, let's not conflate that with what the NBA, the MNBA and the WNBA have to offer to pay their players in the form of salary or with 50-50 revenue share for that matter. But we're going to have to go specifically. I have to get ready to go, Brian. But last thoughts here as you think about this New York Liberty roster. And is there any NCAA game that you have circled to watch for today?
I'll start with the college one first. I believe South Carolina and Indiana hoop up in a couple hours. I've really been so impressed by the Gamecocks because like we wrote about it in the newsletter a while back. Like their last loss was so bad against UConn, and they were like, we're not going to have that happen to us again. And ever since, they've been running the gauntlet, dominating teams. So I'm excited to see them against Indiana in a rematch of last year's tournament game. So that should be really exciting. And for the week ahead, health is where I'm really looking to because Juju bust wonky pinky, wonky ankle, quick turnarounds, like. Kid's tough, but hey, you know, you just gotta the treatment part is so vital in the tournament, and that's where you gotta really be able to lock in. So we need her healthy. Olivia Miles dealing with a bad ankle, and we've been talking about Notre Dame. Like I'm hoping that she's good to go, and I want to see if Notre Dame can really make that big push because I was surprised when I was doing research, but they haven't made the Final Four with Niele yet. And I was like, that surprised me. I was like, wow, really? I thought I could have
No, not yet. Yeah. So that's going to be interesting. For me, I'm looking at this Oregon Duke team. Like I do believe in Carol Lawson and Duke. I also, my gut is telling me that it's a little early for them. I even said that I feel they're a little bit of a dark horse. I know they're a 2 seed and people are like, what do you mean dark horse 2 seed? Listen, the top is still pretty tippy top heavy. You know, you got 1 seeds that people are clowning on, and you mean to tell me that Duke is like a guarantee to a title? Absolutely not. But I like how she's building from a defensive perspective. And just to wrap up with the W, again, really like what we're seeing from this New York Liberty squad. I think they know that the backcourt got punked a little bit going up against the Minnesota squad. So Natasha Cloud, like she said, gives them that dog, gives them, as I would say, that sandpaper. Yeah, I think is also someone who we see in the in the comments some things here, but gives them a little bit of swag that is fitting of a New York Liberty squad.
Erica, you just unlocked a thought in my mind. I just want one-on-one Tosh Cloud and Courtney Williams just yapping, no referees. The referees go away. Let them do what they do. Clear out. Let them do it. It'll be fun.
That would be fun. And also my take with both of them that I don't think people understand. So you gotta be careful what you put in comments. Cause you could say a lot of things about Courtney Williams. I don't like always when she's playing against the Liberty, but like calling her a punk is not something I'm gonna do. That's not something I'm gonna do. Cause I don't believe it fits. I ain't scared, but I don't believe it fits. She's the antithesis of a punk. And that's the same thing about Cloud as well. You don't have to like what they say, but you got to respect what they're coming with. And I do think that would be like you going dog against dog. And once the whistle blows, give them like 5 minutes to cool off, and then they're good.
Yep.
And that is a level of respect. Like you can hold on to petty, and that does seem to be what a lot of people do. Want to clap back once they won a championship. You won a title. You can say what you want to say. I get it. I get it. I get it. But for me, there's something to a player that could put it all out there, be very vocal with how they feel about a game, and then at the end, dap everybody up and mean it with real love. Now, if you go overboard disrespect, then I understand it. But like someone had you last in the standings, you might not like it, but you're really going to go out of your way to make your whole celebration about that? That's just kind of wild to me. That's a little wild to me. I'm not going to lie. And y'all know I'm petty.
Yeah, like you're in a beautiful environment. You're having a top tier moment, and you're worried about a column from where? Like, why? Was that about? Help me here.
Oh, okay. Okay. I misunderstood. Oh, you ain't call her a punk. I was reading fast. Okay. I was like, wait, let's not do that. I was like, don't do that. Like some people are punks, straight up. Some people are punks. You got to call a punk a punk. See, Willie ain't a punk.
Yeah. Also, I don't want to have
to be punked. Okay, that's different. I understand.
I also don't want us to have a situation where Cheryl Reeve is like, oh, look at what they said. And then Cheryl,
yep, she's going to start wearing blazers just so she could throw them into the Barclays crowd. Y'all don't awaken the beast. She's already salty, and I wasn't even thinking of Cheryl, but now I am. I'm like, she said a lot of things. And I don't know, Minnesota been almost too quiet. Like, what y'all got going on? They freaking got a Frankenstein in the basement. They about to bring out on these. See, I almost went to a bad place.
You stopped right there.
I did. I was like, wait. I'm not, we are comfortable, but I'm gonna bring it back. Because you can say some things and be around New Yorkers and y'all understand where I'm coming from, but there's just certain things that I don't say in public company because I'm thoughtful, very demure, very thoughtful about how we talk about people. And so I was like, no, we're not gonna do that because I don't want people being like, oh, what Erica said. No. There's like, you got to understand how New Yorkers use certain language, Beautiful.
Okay, like you got right to the finish. I was like, oh, let me get you up in there.
I said, blow the whistle on that. We're not doing it. Oh, damn. I'm mad you, but you felt where I was coming. Oh, nope.
I knew exactly where.
Nope. Oh, dang. And again, that's a me choice. Like that's why I was like, Eric, that's not how you operate. You could come back, our learned behavior can be changed. It's fine. But yeah, I think it's gonna be, like I said, this is probably the most excited I've been for a New York Liberty roster in a minute. Still questions to be answered for sure. Still some moves potentially that could be made, including please give us a Stewie contract. Again, I think it's a matter of when, not if. And just a reminder that right before the WNBA switched up and effectively conferences didn't really mean anything, at least for the playoffs, there was one player, a Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame player who now works in the NBA, who not only has given deals to the New York Liberty, but actually was waived from the New York Liberty, effectively pausing her contract so that the New York Liberty could reorganize their salary cap situation. And that was the one Swin Cash. Now, I don't think that that's going to happen with Stewie, especially with the court designation already out there. But just a reminder that if we see some crazy things, it might be more of a paperwork thing than that any given player is not going to be with the New York Liberty.
Yeah, sometimes you wonder, what is Jonathan Cope cooking? And then it's like, oh, wow, this is the best meal on the planet. Good job.
Exactly. So a little bit more patience, New York Liberty fans. And I think the next tier for us is to get to training camp. We don't have to worry about the draft, at least in that first round. And I think, honestly, that's a good move. I do think it'll be a solid draft, but not where the Liberty need to be, in my opinion, at the 7 pick. I think they got what they needed in the immediate and intermediate with what they've done. But yes, thank you, Amir. We appreciate you coming through always. Stay tapped in with us. We're going to start getting to a more regular schedule here now that women's basketball on the college side coming to a close, which means it's a tight turn, right, Brian? A quick turn before we get to the draft, which will once again be in New York City. And stay tuned because us at CBS Sports looks like we're putting together a nice little package for y'all. But for Brian, Erica El Ayala here, and you know what time it is. It's time to wave. We'll see y'all.